Because there was a total misunderstanding of exactly how 9/11 occurred and why it occurred. And that we were told that the reason it happened was that the people that came here, they hated us because we were free and prosperous. That is not true. They came here for other reasons. And the tragedy is that it was used as an excuse to do a lot of things they had wanted to do all along. For instance, there had been for over a decade, they had been looking for an opportunity to invade and overthrow our former ally, Saddam Hussein, in Iraq. So we were told that Al-Qaeda was in Iraq and they had nuclear weapons and they were about to attack us, on and on, all built up on lies and get the American people pumped up with war propaganda. Turned out to be not true. It's a mess. It was a mess over there. We lost a lot of eyes, spent many, many hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's ongoing. It's not over there yet. And this is the reason that we have to take a position to understand. Just think of all the problems we've had since World War II with the excess of war and the absence of peace. Mainly because they have done one thing. We have had men and women in presidency and Congress who have not followed the rule of law, and the rule of law says you can't go to war without a declaration of war. Yeah. Secretary of Defense the other day on national television was being interviewed, and he was asked about where he got the authority. He didn't come to Congress for the authority to go into Libya and a proposal to go into Syria, which they actually are already there. He said, well, he'll get it from an international body. He'll get it from the United Nations or NATO. And it is because of our careless regard for the rule of law that has led us into so many of these things, whether it's the economic problems we have, the monetary policy, the welfare state, or the international crisis that we have. But it's coming to an end. It's going to come to an end for financial reason. It's going to give us an opportunity, just as they saw it an opportunity to see a crisis come, to expand the role of government. We're going to see this as an opportunity to shrink the size of government is what we need to do. You know, on January 1st this year, a lot of new laws came into existence. Just a small number, 40,000 new laws on January 1st. As if that is our problem, that we don't have enough laws. I would like to be the first president to get rid of 40,000 laws in 1 year. And I think I'd start with some of the drug laws that exist in this country. We have 5% of the population. We have 25% of the prisoners in the whole world. Yeah. I don't think the Americans are that. I don't think we're that bad people. I don't believe we are. I think if it's a victimless crime because it's a bad habit, they don't need to be in prison. Maybe we ought to think about treating people who are taking too many drugs as we treat people that take too much alcohol. Maybe they ought to be treated like patients rather than criminals. But of course, we've had a chance. We've had the compassionate conservative in charge for a few years, and out of compassion, they said, well, the federal law always overrules state law. So if a state law gets passed, it says that sick people can raise their own marijuana and take care of their own problems and not hurt anybody else. And the law says this, the state and the federal government comes in and overrules this and actually arrests people that are sick. And so this makes no sense whatsoever. The drugs are dangerous and bad. Prescription drugs are a lot more dangerous than the illegal drugs because you have more addiction. We need to reassess who's responsible. Who's responsible for our life? I'd like to think you should be responsible for all your own money. If you have a right to your life and a right to your liberty, you ought to have a right to keep the fruits of your labor, all of it. So the government shouldn't tell you how to spend your money. But if it's your life and you own your own body, if we allow Americans, as we have traditionally, we allow people to deal with their spiritual life, deal with their hereafter, that's a rather serious subject. We allow people to read some of the worst type of philosophies, all kinds of things that have killed so many of communism. Just think of the deaths under communism. We're still allowed to read these philosophies. But when it comes to our own bodies, we have to get permission from the government on what can do and what we can put into our own bodies. But the But the responsibility should be on us. I mean, this doesn't mean that people won't make mistakes. But when the federal government makes a mistake and does harm, it hurts everybody. This is the reason that freedom is so much better. Governments assume that they can be the nanny state and take care of us and that they can protect us from ourselves, which they cannot. But when they make a mistake, it's very, very bad because they do not know what is best for you. They do not know how you should spend your money. You do. If you make your own mistake, you have to suffer the consequences. But after 9/11, we went into Iraq. Also, with days, the very first major piece of legislation was passed, that most onerous piece of legislation called the Patriot Act. As you might guess, I voted against the Patriot Act. And now I'd like to repeal the Patriot Act. But when the bill comes up to repeal the Patriot Act, I won't call it a bill to repeal the Patriot Act. I'm going to call it a bill to restore the Fourth Amendment. No searches without warrants, and invading our houses with the military, and on and on. The very things the founders of this country fought for and fought a revolution. Now we are deliberately and casually taking it away from the American people. This is what this is all about. Are we going to put up with this? I think symbolically, if we can watch TV and the pictures on the internet to show what TSA is doing to make us safe and secure, and watch the prodding and probing and the x-raying of little kids and elderly women and wheelchairs, if we can sit by and say, oh, they're making us safe, so we're okay. If we put up with that, I don't think there's a whole lot of hope for us. And it was very clear to the founders. They said, if you sacrifice your liberties for a little bit more security, you end up with neither the safety or the security or our liberties. I'm afraid that's where we're going. Unless we reverse this, we have to reverse the trend. The Federal Reserve, of course, was established the same year we had the income tax. Major changes occurred during the Wilson administration, the progressive era. The monetary policy changed, the tax policy changed, and also the foreign policy changed. It was Wilson who said, let's make the world safe for democracy. It was all this, idealism. Always wonderful things. We're going to do this for idealistic reason. This is there's a writer now that has coined the word neo-Jacobinism. And it is in many ways, and this is what we're doing around the world. It's always in the best interest. I reduce all this stuff to intervention. I want to have a government that's non-interventionist. Non-interventionist overseas, non-interventionist in your personal life, and non-interventionist in our economic lives as well. But if we understand the whole concept of liberty, this means that people should come together, because everybody's going to use their liberty differently. Everybody has different social values. Everybody has different religious values. And the books you read are going to be different. And we should recognize that. And to a degree, we do. But then we limit it. And some people say, well, if we give them too much freedom, they're going to have some bad habits and they're not going to be good. Which may be true. But do you want the government to make those decisions, or do you want the individual to make decisions? In the way other people say, well, if we give them too much economic liberty, they're going to waste their money and they're going to do these things. They won't take care of themselves. But I tell you what, if you understand this whole issue, we should be able to bring people together. And this is why so often we see diversity in it. It's not because we agree on how we should run our lives, but we agree that we should have the right to run our lives and spend our own money. The crisis that we're facing today is of great magnitude, and the big question is, will we turn it around? I think that, yes, we will. It's not going to be easy. If we did the right things, it wouldn't be all that bad. Because so often they tell you, people come up and say, I have the solution for you, we did this. Now what we have to do is this, you have to sacrifice. Now, if I come to you and say that I can't, implement these laws tomorrow, have sound money, free markets, property rights, contract rights, and no more wars overseas, protecting your personal liberty and let you keep what you earn, What kind of a sacrifice would that be? I would say that you should welcome that. No, liberty should not be a sacrifice. There can be an adjustment period. But when the government gets involved in the natural requirement for an adjustment, when the Federal Reserve and the government gets things so out of whack, there has to be a correction. Corrections are good. But when you prolong the corrections and deny the correction, you prolong the agony, as we did in our Depression, as Japan has been doing, and as we're doing right now. We're prolonging the agony because we don't allow the correction to occur. You know, the entitlement system has been, something has been well motivated. We have to take care of people, help the people who are poor. They need free education and free medical care and free houses, and we have to take care of them. And the government's supposed to give them this free stuff. And the other day when they asked me that on TV, I said, wait a minute, where does the government get it? They don't have anything for free. They have to take it from somebody. That isn't for free. So if we endorse the entitlement system, it sounds good. So let's look at the housing program. It was meant to make sure poor people had houses. So it seemed to work for a while. More and more people had houses. The credit was just created out of thin air, made easy credit. Interest rates were low. And then they had affirmative action type programs where they told the banks, you have to make loans here. You have to do this. You have to make risky loans. So they went and did this, and more people had houses. The price of houses went up. They borrowed against the equity increase in the house. It looked like a perfect money machine. Yeah, until the bubble burst, which was predictable. But guess what happened after the bubble burst? The people who had been making the billions, who branched off into derivatives, the banks and the Fannie Mae's and the Freddie Macs and all those people who were making millions and billions of dollars, they screamed and hollered, there's going to be a depression, there's going to be a depression, you got to bail us out, we're too big to fail. So the politicians rushed, yeah, we got to bail them out, we got to bail them out. And guess what happened? They got bailed out. So the entitlements went to the wealthy who had already been making money. And what happened to the people who had in the middle class? The middle class people lost their jobs and they lost their houses. So it doesn't work. And this is what we have to accept. This is not a good system. Whoa. Sometimes I think what we need is a lot more confidence in our beliefs and our conviction that freedom actually works, and it does. And we have way too much confidence that if we go to the government, they're going to take care of us. Now, that works to a degree until the pie gets shrunk and the pie is in there, and that's why there's going to be a lot of fighting. Compromising won't help, and the fighting is going to go on and on until we revise the system and decide what we want is freedom and not more government. More government will just perpetuate all these problems that we've had for so long. So it really will be up to us to do something about it. Freedom was tried. The best example of its experiment was in this country, in our early history, not the last 100 years. There's been a disintegration of our liberties in this country worse than these past 10 years. But freedom is a new idea. It hasn't been around for thousands of years, and yet I'm sure you've been accused and I've been accused of, oh, you want to go back to the Dark Ages. You want to go back to this gold standard. And you go back, and you know what they don't tell you, though, is what they want to do is go back to tyranny. You know, and tyranny's been around a lot longer than freedom's been around, so freedom is a young idea. Maybe that's why it's so attractive to young people. Freedom is a young idea, and yet we are casting it aside, so we have to pick up the pieces and move forward. We can have a better gold standard. We can have a better understanding of civil liberties. We can have a better economic policies. We have better tools now to communicate with the world. We shouldn't accept this idea of them labeling us in a certain way. And at times they'll say, oh, you don't want to go fight wars. That means you're an isolationist. No, it doesn't mean you're an isolationist. I claim they're the isolationists. They're the ones who want to put sanctions on everybody and cause another war. I want low tariffs, I want trade, I want travel, I want friendship, I want diplomacy. And I think it's about time we announce that the end of the Cold War has arrived and that we ought to have open trade with Cuba. We should go back and forth to Cuba. So we need